Okay, this is slide 8, the last slide for this World War II unit. And let's talk about the end of the war. The end of the war discussion here begins with a meeting between Truman, Churchill, and Stalin called the Potsdam Conference. Potsdam is a city near Berlin. And in July 1945, Truman, Churchill, and Stalin, and there you see them here at the bottom of the slide. That's Churchill on the left, Truman in the middle, Stalin on the right, all meeting to for one main purpose. Right? And what comes out of this is the idea of unconditional surrender. That only a surrender without strings attached, without conditions from Japan will be accepted. We're not going to sit down at a negotiating table. You give up completely, or we keep fighting. Now, this was a bold statement here because, again, an invasion of the Japanese home islands was going to cost hundreds of thousands of American lives. And even more Japanese lives. So saying you have to surrender unconditionally is a bold statement considering what the cost could be. Now, also, what happens at Potsdam is that Truman and Churchill let Stalin in on the fact that an atomic bomb is being developed. The United States has been working on an atomic bomb for quite some time. And Stalin always will resent the fact that he's been kept in the dark on this for so long. You know, we're supposed to be allies and sharing information and all that, and we don't tell Stalin about the atomic bomb until the very end. The Manhattan Project is the name of the project to develop the atomic bombs. Right? It's carried out at several different locations in the United States. But it is led by a man named Robert Oppenheimer. And here in the upper right, you see a picture of Robert Oppenheimer. He is the man in charge of building the atomic bomb. It was all but done by the time Truman comes into office and finds out about it. Right? It was decided by Truman that we were going to drop the atomic bomb to end this war. It is one of the most controversial decisions in history, still debated to this day. Some of Truman's advisors told him, yes, Mr. President, we need to use this. Some told him, no, we don't need to use this. Some of the scientists building the atomic bomb didn't believe it needed to be built. Certainly didn't need it to be used. So it's a very controversial decision. When asked if it was a difficult decision, Truman said, hell no, I made it just like that, and snapped his fingers. I don't believe he made it just like that and snapped his fingers. I'd like to believe that he gave it quite a bit more thought than that. But one of the reasons that he answered that way was that Truman needed to let Stalin know that not only do we have this bomb, that we're willing to use it. Because he realizes that at the end of the war, although we may be allies now, at the end of the war, we are going to be on opposite sides of a political spectrum here. Communism and capitalism do not match. And while we may be allies now, we won't be for long. And Truman needed to let Stalin know that we were not afraid to use this bomb. So I think the statement of, hell no, I made it just like that, is meant as much for Stalin as it is for the Japanese. So let's talk about the use of the atomic bombs. Okay? The first one is dropped on August 6, 1945. The plane that carries the atomic bomb is known as the Enola Gay. That's the name of the plane that will drop this historic, this first here. Okay. And the city on which it is dropped is Hiroshima. Okay. Now, I'm going to have you reading more about the dropping of the atomic bomb, so we won't go into a lot of specifics about it here. But realize that this is a picture of Hiroshima, here at the bottom, there. This is a picture of Hiroshima before it is bombed. Okay? You see rivers running through the city there. I don't know what this is there, but it looks like some kind of water. But anyways, Hiroshima before. This is Hiroshima after the atomic bomb. Photograph taken at the same location, as you can see, same rivers, same little square, whatever that is. This is before, this is after. Okay? The atomic bomb kills 180,000 people. Killed, wounded, or missing. 70,000 of those died instantly. Instantly. 70,000 people dead as soon as the bomb explodes. 60,000 more would die very soon after that from burns or radiation poisoning. Okay? So you're talking about 180,000 people dead, okay, from one bomb. And once we have the technology to build one bomb, we can build as many bombs as we want. Okay? The problem was, even after Hiroshima is dropped or is bombed, Japan refuses to surrender. So, 3 days later, after giving another opportunity to surrender, 3 days later, a second atomic bomb is dropped on the city of Nagasaki. About 80,000 people are killed, wounded, or missing there. It's not that it's a smaller bomb, it's a smaller city. Okay? Now, a lot of people want to argue that Truman is simply just trying to get even for Pearl Harbor, that he wants to create as much destruction as he possibly can on the Japanese. This is just revenge. I don't believe that's the case. If Truman had wanted to create as much destruction as he possibly could, he would have dropped the thing right in the middle of downtown Tokyo. But he doesn't. He chooses Hiroshima and Nagasaki because they are industrial military towns. They are military targets and they are industrial targets. He could have killed a lot more people if he wanted to. Could have done a lot more damage if he wanted to. So I don't think it comes down to just a matter of revenge. Okay? People often ask me, students rather, average people don't care, but students often ask if I would have dropped the atomic bomb. And my answer is yes. If I had been Harry Truman, I would have dropped the bomb. I would have hated the thought of killing innocent Japanese civilians, but as President of the United States, my job is not to protect Japanese citizens. My job is to protect American citizens. And knowing that hundreds of thousands of American soldiers were going to die if we have to invade Japan, and none were going to die if I drop the bomb, I'm dropping the bomb. So anyway, after Nagasaki, the Japanese agree to surrender, but they ask for one condition. And even though Potsdam had decided unconditional surrender only, we agreed to meet Japan's one condition. And their one condition is that the emperor would be allowed to remain on the throne. So we let them keep their emperor, but we strip him of all powers. He is purely ceremonial. He has no military authority, no governmental authority whatsoever. He is simply a figurehead for the people to worship and adore. And we tell them, this is your last one. So we let them keep their emperor, and as a result, the war will come to an end with the celebration of VJ Day on September 2nd, 1945. So World War II will come to an end on September 2nd, 1945, Victory in Japan Day. We had VE Day, Victory in Europe, and now VJ Day, Victory in Japan. September 2nd, 1945. Now, wars will always be determined the cost of them by the number of lives. And World War II was the deadliest war the world had ever seen, or still to this day has ever seen. In terms of the U.S. dead, the U.S. suffers just over 300,000 deaths. 300,000 for the U.S. That is nothing, a drop in the bucket compared to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union lost more citizens than anybody else. More than 25 million Soviets were killed in the war. 25 million Soviet citizens killed in the war. World War II was the first war that saw more civilians killed than military killed because of the mass bombing of cities, because of the atomic bombs, because of firebombing of cities. More civilians killed than military. More would have died, especially soldiers, had it not been for a couple of inventions. Blood plasma, which works with any blood type. It's just a temporary replacement. But plasma was invented, and penicillin to fight infections. So we see, some medical breakthroughs save a lot of lives, plasma and penicillin, but still, millions and millions and tens of millions dead. And the basic reason, bottom line, that the Allies are able to win the war is simply that they outproduced the Axis powers. The Allies outproduced the Axis powers. They can't keep up. Germany, Italy, and Japan, and all their little subgroups here, they can't keep up in terms of weapons and ammunition, food, everything. The Allies are able to outproduce them, mainly as a result of the United States being involved. So, anyway, there we have World War II, and test time coming up.